Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Filling in the Gaps. My name is Rich from the heartland state of Ohio and joined, as always, by Cameron from the biggest and baddest state of Texas. Welcome to Filling in the Gaps, a podcast that's not an actual play podcast, but we're a brainstorming podcast really centered around this idea of helping you get inspired so that you can actually play with your friends next time you sit down for your next game night. We know that sometimes coming up with ideas week after week, bye-week after bye-week, month after month, whatever, can be difficult. You just get exhausted. You just need something to inspire you. That's what we hope to be. Whether you are on our Discord, whether one of these themes and scenarios we're going to roll for is one of your suggestions, our whole community is built around helping you out. So, we're glad you're here from wherever it is you're listening from. Except for
South Dakota.
Except for South Dakota. You guys are
coming
the worst.
For you.
We're coming.
We're going to come campaign. We're going to campaign in South Dakota. And hey, if you have a VPN, just make us feel better and set your VPN in South Dakota.
We have listeners from every state. Listeners from every state but South Dakota, which I'm convinced that's Shannon's home base. Don't worry. If you guys are new, if you haven't been listening for a while, you'll get privy on the inside joke soon enough. Just join the Discord, and I'm sure you'll hook.
It's not a joke. The Shannon situation, and that's what it is. Shannon situation 2019 hashtag. It's a hashtag. It's trending on Twitter right now.
Yep.
It's a real problem. It is not a joke.
Not a joke.
I don't want to take this thing lightly. We can't be playing around with these words like this.
I know. There's just enough going on in the world that I'd like to not have to think about Shannon and her evil advertisements in our Discord server anymore. You know, there's just enough going on.
She was trying to distract us from the rainforest. But we're not distracted.
No, we are awake. We're woke.
We're woke. We're woke and she's broke. Speaking of being woke and broke, I have one other question. It's specifically pertaining to finances.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you real quick.
Yeah.
Shall we roll?
Let's do it. Dude, it feels good. It feels good to be back at it. We've just been doing so much with DM's Treehouse. It feels good just to be me and you. Hey. Psst. Yeah, hey you.
Yeah.
Over here.
I see you.
Just you and me. Yeah. Sorry, that's a meme. If you got that meme, if you understood that meme, that Kazoo Kid Deep meme, please let me know. But what we're going to be doing with this beautiful background music is we're going to be rolling 2 D20s. 2 passionate rolls, 1 theme and 1 scenario, and we're gonna mash them together, and it's gonna make a beautiful sound, a beautiful session for you to maybe run your next game night.
Let's do this thing.
Let's do it. Okay, today I'm rolling for.
What
themes.
am I rolling for?
You're rolling for scenarios, and let's do this and go. Fiver.
Ooh, 3 ver.
Oh my gosh. Yes, Cam. Yes. Okay, sorry. I looked ahead and I saw what mine was. I'm going to let you go ahead and put those together while I tell you guys about our sponsor, Libris Arcana Dice. You like dice. We know. Look, you're safe here. We get you. We do. We understand. It's hard. It's hard. You look at your gaming cabinet, your gaming, maybe you have a shelf, and you see all those dice up there, and you think you have a problem. And you don't. You don't have a problem. If you'd like some help getting more dice, we encourage you, check out LibrisArcanaDice.com. They'll send 1 set of dice to your door every month, or 3 sets every 3 months, and if you use our promo code FITG, you'll get some help getting more dice by getting 25% off your next order. I don't know what that was. I went way too emotional with that ad today. I have to come up with something.
I feel like
every
Sarah
week.
McLaughlin should be playing in the background of that ad. Just
in the arms of angels,
you want some dice. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
We did the old ad thing. I have an ad too, actually, before we get going. Guys, if you have DMs that you like listening to, say, for example, some of your favorite shows, whether that be D&D or any storytelling shows for that matter, and you want to hear what it's like to see sort of behind the screen for them and how they sort of build things in their own mind and you want to hear them join us for a story creation, I feel like we have a really great little platform here to really expose true to life ideas for people and put them in this hot spot that allows them to be creative. So if you got people that you want to see on Filling in the Gaps, creating ideas, stuff like that, let us know. We'll gladly reach out to them. This week, Rich.
This week
on Filling in the Gaps. We number 5 for the theme was the Beholder, and it was a Hydra beholder or a Behydra,
something like that,
or something like that. Yeah, so it's essentially like a cross between a beholder and a Hydra. So that was interesting. That was actually brought to us by somebody, I'm sure. But
it was like a whole community of people. I think it was Mom.
Oh yeah, it was like our entire Discord. So shout out to our entire Discord for that. So Beholder or Hydra, and then scenario this week, I rolled a 3. Is Death is No Escape, brought to us by Combi Zombie.
Ooh, okay. Death is No Escape. Beholder Hydra. So to kind of give a little bit more flavor to this Beholder Hydra, for those of you guys who weren't a part of the Discord conversation, someone had asked what happens if there was a beholder. I think it was just a joke. They were like, hey, what would it be like if a beholder had beholders for eyes? And then it was like, so you cut off one eye and it like grows back, and someone else was like, that's like a Beholder Hydra. Like you cut off one eye stalk and 3 more grow in, and it just became this huge, crazy thing that I guess now we're running. And you know what? The problem was, what is the challenge rating for this crazy? A beholder is like a challenge rating like 15. It's a tough monster, probably even more than 15. Mm-hmm. So a multiple beholder session would be death. So it's great that death is no escape.
Yeah, exactly. It almost to me comes in the sense of like torment or something like that. It's just like it's just probably. Well, I guess you can ask the question that you always ask every single week. Rich.
Oh yeah.
Or I could just jump right into it.
No,
either way,
no.
It doesn't really matter.
I'm sorry, Cam.
I get the shall we roll. So
you like the tradition of Cameron. When you think of a Beholder Hydra, or when you think of death not being escaped, what are the pictures you're seeing in your mind, in your mind's eye, in the center of your head, in your heart? What are you seeing right now?
Those are 2 different locations on my body.
That's true.
Yeah. So we'll start with the center of my head. And right now, what I am seeing is a beholder that has captured people for torment and maybe uses them as like a sort of metaphysical battery of sorts. Okay. And so they are provided with, they live in this sort of like simulation of sorts that is created by this beholder, but in reality they can't die. They're sort of in stasis, and the life force is being utilized for the beholder or the Behydra. What are we going to call this? Are we going to call it a Behydra?
I like the Behydra. I think that's sweet.
Okay. So that's what we're going to do then. The Behydra. That's going to be kind of the situation here. It's I think. Well, it doesn't have to be, but that's what my mind, I think, or sees right now, is this idea of sort of held people trapped in sort of a limbo of sorts. Rich, on the other side of this, though, what does your heart see?
My heart of hearts. Yeah. So I'm thinking, what if a creature such as a Behydra exists? I feel like that's like a Tarrasque level threat. That's an Avengers level threat, Cam. Like
Thanos.
Yeah, I feel like that's a thing where once it pops into the world, like people gotta take notice. Mm-hmm. So I feel like Death is No Escape was kind of meant as you're trapped by death. Like, well, you're trapped by undeath. Like you can't just die, like, because you keep coming back because this is like the tortured existence you are a part of now. What if though? You get pulled in by this council of heroes to take out this Behydra. That's because it. So if you guys didn't know, I love how beholders reproduce. because they do it through dreams. Like, what a beholder dreams actually can happen in the real world. Like, if a beholder goes to bed and dreams about how strong they are, how they are so tough, nothing can take them out, then they might wake up and have, like, thicker skin or, like, more armored skin. If they dream about how rich they are, how they're the wealthiest thing in the world, they'll wake up with more money. If they dream about how perfect they are and how there's nothing else in the universe as good as they are, they might wake up with another version of them that is now there, and then they'll just kind of fight to the death or whatever. But that means that beholders have been known to have dreams about vampires and become vampire-like beholders. They've been known to dream about death and become undead beholders. So what's to say a beholder didn't dream about a Hydra? And became
a Hydra.
Exactly. So I think maybe there's this council of people who came together and they pull your team in, and maybe there's like a not so good lich who's like, hey, like, look, here's the thing. We got to all work together to take this thing out. So you have like the king of a local town, you've got like the mages guild, you've got this lich, and they're all coming together to take out this Hydra. And maybe it's one of those things where this would just be a fun like just throw yourself at it session. Like, I could see this being a good session to do after like a level up, or if you level up a few times in a row and you haven't got a chance to try out all your abilities yet, because you can essentially just say like, hey, you're gonna die, so go out there and just do all the crazy, and then you'll die, and then you'll respawn, and we'll send you at it again.
I worry about respawn functionality inside of D&D because it provides no recourse for certain things.
True.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think that's just going to come from us working with this lich, though. It's not like a forever thing.
There should be a cost associated to that, to the respawns.
Is the cost, maybe it takes a certain amount of time to respawn. So maybe this Hydra is a certain distance out from the city, and maybe when you die, it takes like a full day for you to respawn, and you only have 7 days to take it out. So if you can run away and live, good. If you die, you'll all respawn, but it'll be 1 day closer to the city.
Let's jump into the Hydra.
Okay.
Let's look at a Hydra real quick. I want to take a look because I want to see what, from D&D's perspective, what. Excuse me, the mic for moving. I had to move my book out from underneath my mic. I want to see what D&D's sort of perspective is on the Hydra, because
they're only what?
I want to see what's the motivation.
Oh, they're just monsters.
Well, yeah, but like, is there something interesting about it that can make this more than just like massive monster attack city? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like it's yeah. Well, I think I just doesn't feel as rewarding to me like that.
I don't know. Sometimes a giant monster attacking a city isn't a bad idea. Sometimes it's good to have a villain that isn't like a understandable villain. Because like, maybe this is just me as a player. I do appreciate a well thought out villain that I feel for and I understand. But sometimes I just want to punch a thing with no recourse. I don't want to have to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have defeated this villain. Like, it kind of sours the victory when the villain is like, but I did it for love. And you're like, dang it. This guy just loves somebody, and I'm over here keeping him from it.
I did it for love.
Yeah.
You killed my wife and children.
And you're like,
oh, this was definitely not the bad guy. This was just some dude's house. Damn, I am so sorry, sir.
And the Beholder, too, is just such a good... Their personalities are just so good to play these, like, crazy, unhinged, almost Joker-like characters. Like, the Joker is not a redeemable villain, but you'll love him because he's just such a good... I just want to see the world burn.
Yeah. So there's some really fun things here. This is going to make an extremely difficult challenge.
Oh,
by
yeah.
the way. Because there's some really cool stuff in the Hydra that I've actually never played a Hydra before. And they're not actually all that strong they're only challenge 8, so they're a relatively mid-campaign type of beast, or monster.
They're on par with what, a flesh golem?
No, flesh golem's 5, so it's a little bit below that.
Gotcha.
Their hit points are actually relatively close, though. So the Hydra has this thing called reactive heads. Mm-hmm. For each head the Hydra has beyond 1, it gets an extra reaction, but used only for opportunity attacks. So that's pretty crazy. But there's also wakeful, and this is something that I thought would be interesting. So while the Hydra sleeps, at least one of its heads is awake.
Okay.
Here's what I was thinking. What if this Beholder Hydra originally dreamt itself as a Hydra? Then the core Beholder mind stays awake, while the other heads slept. And during that time, it utilized its own cognitive thinking to shape those heads in the ways that it decided. So whether that was the other head was undead beholder, or all these different types of beholders, or something like that, or one that specifically focused on different let me ask you a question real quick. Sorry to cut my own thought off here. The Hydra itself is a beholder with a bunch of tentacles that go out to more beholders, correct?
I mean, there was a bunch of ideas thrown out for what it looks like. There was one idea
let's
that
explore that.
It's like just a beholder that has now legs and a big center eye, but every eye stalk is kind of just huge, like its own head. Woo, sorry, I'm knocking over my pop. There was an idea where essentially imagine what a Hydra looks like, but at the end of the head is just a beholder. So every neck is a beholder that has its own 8 eye stalks and center eye. So there was that idea. There's a bunch of ideas.
What do you think I think we should do that one. The core body with, let's say 5 necks on it with a bunch of beholders at the end of each of the necks.
I do like that.
Okay.
What if this could be an interesting thing to run as a dungeon, maybe, but it's just so difficult. That's why I think the only way that a session like this works out is if there is like an undeath mechanic.
Got it.
Because I feel like, my goodness, a beholder is strong enough, but you throw 2, you throw 3, and they keep coming. I feel like that's super tough. So maybe though you have this beholder who takes over a town, takes over a castle, and I'm wondering if instead of having this be one big fight against 5 beholders at once, what if it's you take out a head here, you take out a head here, you take out a head here, so you're not taking them out individually, but this thing's massive. So it's like maybe you're going from one part of this castle to another, fighting these heads, and taking them out. And then I think you have to sear them, right? If you do damage with fire, it keeps the head from regenerating, I think, or something like that. So you can take out heads individually, but then maybe still at the end you're fighting a now weakened Hydra with several heads.
It doesn't say anything specifically in the monster manual about using burning, but I think that's fine. Cauterizing the wound, in other words, stopping it, because essentially what it says is once the Hydra takes 25 or more damage in a single turn, one of its heads dies. If all of its heads dies, the Hydra dies. At the end of the turn, it grows 2 heads for each of its heads that died since the last turn. Unless it has taken fire damage since the last turn. Never mind, I don't read very good, Rich. I'm a bad read boy.
It's okay. I was wondering if I just knew that from Greek mythology or something. I didn't know why it was there.
Okay, yeah. So fire, yeah. So you have the standard thing. I think it would be really, really cool if this singular massive eye. Actually, here's how we'll build up this Hydra. One big, huge beholder. 4 tentacles coming off of it, with an eye stalk at the end of each one of them. Each of those beholders is a different style of beholder.
Ooh, I like that.
Like an undead beholder, maybe a very magic based using beholder, one that's really illusionary or illusory, illusionary, and then one that's like really based in physical attacks and things like that. So you got really good shifts in mechanics. You've got really good shifts in the theme that's playing through your head, your character's head.
Yep.
So that would be cool. And then those eye stalks are like bosses heading down into the waiting eye of this massive final beholder. This giant eye that the players must defeat. The inside my mind right now, it's really, really cool. Like I see like a crumbled up dungeon that has like rocks and rubble around this massive like eye that's just looking around, searing with magical energy, and through the different portions of the castle, portions of it are destroyed and collapsed and broken, and these eyes are searching around and looking around and killing and capturing people, and you've been tasked by the local Heroes Guild to go in and defeat this massive beholder with the help of them or something like that. Provides you a great opportunity for skills challenge on the exit. I mean, this is
So maybe this Hydra has taken over. That's what I'm trying to think of. Maybe like an old wizard's tower, or he's taken over like a town.
Yeah. Well, I would say that there's like extreme arcane attunement beneath the wizard's tower, right?
Yeah. That way, like, you could have this king show up who wants to just defend his realm from this threat. You have this adventurers guild who throws up because they're going to get paid. You have this lich who shows up because he's like, look, I'm going to help you. I would normally want to kill all of you, but there's an artifact in there that I really want. So
That's a really Hey guys, real quick, just want to say something. We need to kill that thing in there. Usually, I would destroy each and every single one of you, mercilessly. But today I have to kill this beholder, so consider yourself lucky.
Yes.
That's all I gotta say about that.
Yep.
That's so funny.
But
I want to run a lich like that now.
A very practical lich, it's just business.
Yeah. I gotta kill you guys, so I hope you don't mind.
I really don't want to do this, but you're forcing my hand.
Gotta summon the Great Lord Cthulhu, so
Just another day at the office.
I'm actually going over to Volos. For those of you that have Volos, there is a specific section that is dedicated to beholders and the variant abilities that they have, and all the different types of beholders that can be created. And they start on page 6. Yeah, pretty much.
Right in the beginning.
There's a bunch of them in there. So something to look into. I'm not going to do that right now. I just wanted to point that out to everybody as well. So let's so we've gotten this situation right. Now the mechanics of the undeath are pretty set in stone as well. Is there any kind of flair we can add to that to try to make it a little bit easier to explain?
Well, you know what? Now that this isn't like a monster coming toward the town, I do agree with you. There has to be some kind of accountability. Like, it can't just...
Well, just based off of our theme as well, though.
Yes.
Death is no escape.
What could be that sense of accountability?
What about this? What if death is the way to defeat this thing?
I mean, isn't that usually how defeating something works?
No. You need to die to defeat this thing.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Maybe part of its essence or soul exists within the Underdark, in a specific circle of the Underdark that is not accessible by regular means. The only way to get there is to get yourself to such a close point of almost death that the pathways between the two worlds open, and then that allows the Lich to create a bridge through this death. And so therefore you are in fact dead by existing within the Underdark in that sense, but you have to travel there to defeat the originations of this Hydra. and the massive eye that's sort of controlling it from beneath.
What if I'm liking this idea?
Was that just like absolutely buffoon? Is that just
no?
It's
got me thinking differently. So what if along that lines, I was thinking there's a paladin spell, cleric spell. It's like soul bond or protection or something like that. Essentially, you and another character wear a ring, and you give the other character +1 AC, and whenever it takes damage, it's like a level 1 spell. Whenever it takes damage, you take half the damage. It's a really cool, like, flavorful spell for like protecting someone, like a ward or something like that. What if the Lich is going to? This could be a Lich, it could be a Death Knight, whatever.
Right.
Excuse me, I drank some pop and I'm really burpy. You know how it goes. Really burpy. But what if I'm a burpy boy? So what if you have to, instead of just killing these beholders' heads, what if, like you said, there's something special you have to do? Like, what if you have to get eaten by the beholder? Or what if there's like a plan where like one person has to get eaten by the beholder because they have to do something inside, but then just weird ways of defeating this huge creature. Like, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Or like trying to think, you have to think outside the box for how to beat it. That's the thing though, is like sometimes as a DM, I feel like I really enjoy thinking outside the box for threats or for sessions or stuff like that. I really enjoy like, hey, here's the open map and you guys can think of whatever you want to think of for how to take this thing out. And sometimes players are like,
I go to it and I stab it in the eye.
Yeah, like they just kind of want to play the game. They don't necessarily want to like.
Yeah, so maybe we are overthinking it.
But it might.
Well, yeah.
But that just depends on your party. If you know your party.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. We still have an obligation as two people who've created a show based off of creating an idea between two things. Death is no escape, and we owe it to Combi.
That's true.
He's obviously going. We owe it to him.
That's true. So what if it's this idea? The Hydra.
Okay.
Maybe we just, if death is no escape, maybe we just do go right back to what your original idea is. Like this beholder, this Hydra. I could see the Hydra being like a whole arc in and of itself, like where you make a whole session based around kind of being like a jailbreaky type scenario with this Hydra. Mm-hmm. Like you are born into like kind of essentially like servitude of this Hydra who just reigns with an iron fist over this entire realm. There's no escape. Even when you die, you are just brought back to life until you die, like of natural causes, I guess. But any like you're put into like these terrible work situations where you'll just like burn to death trying to work the coal mine or whatever, and pop right back to life. But everyone's like terrified of actually facing this beholder because they say like facing the beholder, like standing up to him, is like worse than dying. Like the things he will do to you are like the worst ways of dying. So people kind of like just avoid standing up to him. But maybe you and your party are like, you know what? He's given us this curse of not being able to die. If we are brave enough to suffer through pain, we could like take this thing out once and for all.
Right. I think that'd be amazing. So you have this massive wizard's tower. You work through each of the different ones, like the different beholders, which we can always work through those as well.
I like the idea too of the different beholder heads not getting along.
Oh, absolutely! They're completely contradictory of one another.
Yep.
And they argue and they fight, and it's it can be crazy. But once you've gotten to all those, and then you've made it to the final eye, the Lich goes, we can kill this eye over and over again. But the only way to truly kill it is by entering its own realm and destroying it from within. And that's where that whole transition to death not being, you're put into this like potentially horrific like eternity of death by having to go down there to fight this thing. You could get trapped down there and never come back and always be stuck within that world. There becomes our like our motivation as to why you don't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of all of that,
can I piggyback off you real quick?
Come on, baby. Hop on.
So, okay, first off, this Lich. I think this Lich works for the Beholder. And this Lich is like, if I have to be the right-hand man to this Beholder for another century, I think I'm going to find a way to kill myself. Because I hate this Beholder. He bickers with himself all day long. I do what one Beholder says to do, and the other one tells me to undo it. So he's kind of pushing you guys to rebel. So in a weird way, in this world, a Lich is the good guy. Kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
But what if what he helps you do, so you're talking about having to face this Hydra in like its own realm, like in the realm where you can hurt it. What if you have to face it in its dream?
I like that.
Like, so you have to face every Hydra head in a dream, and maybe they aren't even aware to the fact that you are interfering with their dreams, but by you essentially giving them...
It's Beholder Inception.
Exactly. And by you essentially... Oh my gosh. By you essentially giving them like... You give them debuffs in their dream, and then eventually maybe still that makes it so you can fight them all as this, because I feel like the Hydra fight would just be so cool, like if you can do it. So maybe what you eventually have to do is in this dream you weaken all of them individually, and then the Lich is like, cool, I'm gonna link all of you guys into one dream, and you have to in this dream like it's like the fight thing. And maybe what that allows you to do too is you have the creativity of like being in a dream. So it's kind of Inception, like you said, you can kind of do whatever you want. So you guys can really buff your characters up and make it so that they can like. You'll have to think of some kind of mechanic so that it's not just like, well, I just summon a meteor, or maybe that's okay. Maybe it's like, okay, in this dream, and it just.
I heard something this week about like spells in D&D and how like sometimes not all the spells in the player's handbook are what just they're not the only things that exist in D&D.
Yes.
There's like other magic outside of that. So this is all within the realm of possibility in this regards. I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
What if we did it in sort of like two sections? And this is less of a session because man, that's a whole bunch of stuff to do. But we have the 4 Beholder eye stalks that have like sort of taken control of this tower or this arcane center, if you will. You work with the Lich to get through each of those areas and then get down to this main Hydra itself. If left to its own devices through dreaming, then it's going to happen again. It will remanifest itself in a different way, maybe more powerful this time. So you now must enter its dream, right, to do what you were talking about here recently. Can we go that way? Is that fine where we have external combat and then dream-based combat or dream-based interactions, so external and internal interactions, as opposed to just all of it manifesting within the dream of the Beholder?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you like the dream more so?
No, my hope was you fight them in the dream so that you can fight them out of the dream. Like what you have to weaken them in the dream, or else they are just going to be this CR 40 monster where all of them use Disintegration Ray on turn 1 and you all die.
Yeah.
Like, so you have to do something to weaken them in the dream world to be able to then fight them. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Or is it you do just fight them in the dream world, and because you're in a dream, you have a little bit more leeway to do more damage, take more damage, and what you have to do is essentially beat them down so much in the dream that when the original Beholder wakes up, he's like back to his original form or to a weaker form or something like that.
Yeah, essentially it's like planting the idea inside the dream. It's just like Inception in the sense of like planting the idea inside the dream to make sure that when the beholder wakes up, it believes it as its own idea.
See, that could be so cool too. Yeah. Is the whole...
So then it reverts away from being the Hydra.
I didn't necessarily have an Inception setting, but there was one time where I had... Actually, it was for... This is the... It's like the... it's the story for where Prince Sirik came from. From DM's Treehouse from the Ascent, coming soon. So while this was in my home game, so Prince Sirik was still like manifesting his whole like, well, Prince Vendrick was still manifesting becoming like Sirik, this god of like madness and lies and disorder and whatnot. So the players were hanging out with him, and one of the players like, they had helped him track down a dragon and kill it out in the desert. So he had like set up camp and was kind of just having a good time, but they could tell that something was off about him. Right. So one of the players, of course, like snuck into his room and was looking through his stuff. And like when they went in there, he opened up this like dresser, because like he just kind of felt like this cool wind coming out of the dresser, and he's like, what's up with that? So he opens up the dresser, and when he opens up the bottom shelf, it just opens up into a cave. And so he hopped in it, and it was the dresser led to Pandemonium, which is like Sirik's personal realm, and he was wandering around inside like Sirik and Vendrick's dreams. So he'd be sneaking around, and then he'd look over and see like Prince Vendrick just like walking, like sleepwalking kind of. And then he woke up, and he kept going into like nightmares that Prince Vendrick was having. And I kind of hinted like, hey, if this thing has a nightmare and you don't get out before he wakes up, that's going to be bad. So he would like step into a nightmare situation and try to like distract him. Like there was one where it was him playing with a puppy. And he's like, oh, look, it's a little tiny kid, Prince Vendrick, playing with this puppy. That's awesome. And then he just keeps walking. In the next hallway, like it's him, but this puppy's like a full-grown dog, and he's like a preteen, and the dog's like dead. And so he's like, you kind of feel like the walls around you like rumble, and you kind of like the air in the tunnels kind of get very tense. And he's like, oh, what can I do? And I'm like, well, you're in like a dream state. Like you can interact with this dream. However, so he turns into he turned into the original puppy and just like went in there and tried to like distract the guy. And it worked. And I had like different situations where things like that happened. And he could like transform into things to interact with the dreams. And I think that could be really cool. Especially if you put a little thought into what these different beholder dreams would be like. Like maybe one beholder is just I'm trying to think of ridiculous dreams, ridiculous dream situations. Like the beholder forgot, like he's not wearing pants to school or something like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. No, but it's a dream. So it makes sense. Yeah. Or like there's a beholder who's like trying to ask out another beholder in this dream and it's not working, or just ridiculous situations that make no sense, that could be so wacky, and it only works because it's a dream. Yeah. Dude, what if you even had the beholders, what if you had to find out from them what their biggest weakness was? Because beholders are also kind of paranoid. Like they obsess over making sure that their layers are protected from anything that could go wrong, anything. So what if in this dream you had to befriend this beholder in the dream and get it or them to tell you what its weakness was? So then having it dream enough about its weakness would manifest the weakness in real life that you could then use against it.
Got it. Okay, I'm with that as well. So it like gives you some prep time for each of the heads to deal with as well, and then also gives these like wild, because like everything is sort of based reality wise in that tower, but then when you go into these dream worlds, they can be vibrant and wild.
Exactly.
And here is where we can have some fun.
Like, I love the idea of the beholder, the undead beholder, like you go into its dream and it just being like runways and modeling and like glam session, and he's just like, I wanted to be a model, and you're just like, what?
I had the figure for it. They always told me I had beautiful eyes.
But just like stuff like that where it's like, I never thought I'd be playing a D&D session where I'm like runway modeling with a beholder, but I guess I am now.
Okay, so let's make some beholders real quick. So we've got obviously the undead beholder. Vanity would be the weakness, right?
Okay, I like that.
Okay. I was thinking of so beholders actually have pets and stuff like that as well. I was thinking of this like swashbuckling, not maybe pirate, but maybe like more of a Robin Hood-esque beholder with a feathered cap and sort of a pompous attitude, and this like sort of beastmaster beholder. I thought would be really interesting. And I think maybe its biggest fear would be this isn't as nearly as inventive about the modeling or anything like that, but the animals themselves turning on the beholder and eating him alive or something like that would be like a fear. And so maybe your players could get into the dream, help that manifest, and then instead of fighting against all of his monsters, you're fighting the beholder along with all of its pets or something like that.
Ooh,
does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. I see what you're saying. I kind of see him though as being almost a little bit more like, instead of Robin Hoodish, like maybe a little bit more like mad scientist Frankenstein-esque. Like he's got all these creatures in like vials or cages or tubes, and he's just kind of like studying all of them. And he's got this like intense fascination, but also the fascination comes from like that fear of like, what happens if these things turn on me?
Yeah, okay. So mad scientist, and that's just like a maybe hubris or something like that. That would be because he knows how close he's flying to the sun.
Yeah, I like that.
By keeping himself sort of next to the bomb all the time. What else do we have here? So I like the idea of one that's like caught up in the books of like reading and learning and always being able to just grow their sort of total magical footprint, specifically around illusions. And maybe this beholder is in the dream is having like a magic show, and everyone keeps on calling out its tricks.
Or what if he's in high school and he's just got terrible acne and he hates the way that he looks, and it's Mean Girls the movie, but with a beholder as the main character, and he's like,
and obviously we say he, but because that's that's what we always say, but it could be anything.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Like
I
don't even know if they even.
I don't think they do. I think beholder's just beholder, but it's just going through school. Like, one day you guys will see me I'll make sure you guys don't see all this stuff, whatever. And that's like, it's like it's his origin story for why he became obsessed with illusion magic, which is also weird because beholders don't have history. Like, which I think it just adds to the wackiness of this and like why I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying really hard to make sure that every dream feels like, what?
I just picture this, that Squidward face, like when Squidward was like really handsome?
Yes.
I picture a beholder with that face.
Yep.
Essentially, with like one big eye. It's like this extremely handsome beholder. And then whenever the dream falls apart, its illusions fall apart, and it reverts back to that like, really self-conscious and self-deprecating type of thing, and it's just becomes very it's like, don't look at me please, and it's just like that would be its biggest weakness. Then it's
like I'm picturing
that's awesome.
This beholder's dream starts, and you've already had like the dream starts, and it's like, okay, you wake up and the school bell rings and you're surrounded by all these students, orcs, goblins, there's mind flayers, there's humans, there's dwarves. They're all in high school, and they're walking very quickly with their backpacks. There's a few giggling, and you're like, what the heck? And then it's like, however, you look down the hallway and you hear a little bit of shouting, and there's a beholder getting its books out of its locker, and there's these other kids making fun of the beholder because he's got really bad acne, or it's got really bad acne, or whatever. And they're just like, and so essentially in this session, you have to befriend, in this high school scenario, this beholder. And it's like, you really think I'm not that bad? And they're like, no, I think you're awesome, dude. And then you get close to it, and it's like, hey, you know what? At least those bullies, you know what they don't know? Your secret weakness. But I'm your friend, so you should tell me your...
Do you mean my internal guilt and sadness and everything?
Yeah.
Yes, that weakness.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a terrible weakness I have.
It's a good thing they don't know about that.
Well, if we're going to stick with this sort of like high school thing, what if we did like a buff beholder? A buff holder.
Like just a super
meathead beholder.
I like that. Just super dumb.
That has two arms, actually, as well. And its biggest fear is losing those arms, so that it can't look as buff as he currently
Two
does.
of its eye stalks are just built. They're just ripped.
They're shredded eye stalks, and they actually look like dumbbells at the ends as well. And he's just like, "Yo, what's up?"
So here's something too. I like the idea of all the beholders are all fighting to see which one's the main head. And I like that this one, all the other heads are like, there's no way that you're the main head. And in its dream, it's just like this, like, I'm imagining kind of very metal world where he's like, I am the top head. And all the other heads are like, that's right, you're so strong and you're so smart. And he's like, yeah, I am. And
I am super smart. You know what else I am? Super smart. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm buff.
I don't know what to do with that dream to, like, get the weakness out of him, but there would have to be something.
You got to take away his protein supplements and stuff like that.
Gotta make him weak. Gotta give him the secret stuff from Space Jam.
Hey, it's not leg day. That's what you got to look at his legs and you got to go,
oh my
somebody skipped leg day.
You get into a weightlifting competition with him, and it comes down to leg press.
See, and this is great because like a lot of this is dealing with not necessarily physical acts, but your barbarian or your big beefy character has an opportunity right now to show up this emasculate this buff jockish type of beholder.
And then he pulls
and then
out.
Obviously it all leads down to the giant core beholder.
Well, are we still wanting to do the giant core beholder if we're going to have the different heads fighting for supremacy?
Well, where does the core... Did it all lead back to one singular body? Or is it a big eye?
I like the idea of that leading back to one singular body. And once you weaken all of them and get all of their weaknesses, you can then fight it as one Hydra with beholder heads. Gotcha. Now that you've gotten them to like dream up their weaknesses.
Gotcha. I understand. In other words, what you could do is fight the individual heads by themselves, weaken them to the point of where they have to be knocked out. The Lich could warn the players, if you kill this and you knock its head off, well, it will only come back stronger. And so you knock it out, it goes into a sleep state. Then you dive into the dream, and you try to extract the weakness from there. That way, it's still providing some opportunities. So you're still presenting the players with all these different like scenarios, if you will.
Yeah.
Man, this actually would be a really cool like 5 or 6.
I could see this going
sort of short adventure.
Yeah, and I could see it going so many ways too. Because like even though we just built it out this way of like the whole dream, like weakening it in the dream to fight it in real life, you could just go at it, and maybe the way you beat it is you just keep cutting off its heads, and they all start fighting with each other. Like, or maybe like you kind of make maybe there's like the buff head that we talked about, there's like a head like that who's like, I'm the big head, and I knew that if there was more of me, that we'd for sure be like number one. So you know what? When we all fight, I need you to cut off my head so that there'll be two of me. And then if you keep cutting off my heads, then we're going to keep getting to the point where there's more of us than they are of them. And it's just like as you cut off the heads, there's more heads, but then you turn them against each other.
He's like, cut my head off, bro.
Yeah, cut my head off, bro.
What? He's like, dude, do it. I promise. Watch. Check it out. Slice. Hey, look at both of us. We're so buff.
Looking good. Yeah, give me a flex.
Then the beholders look at each other, and then he goes, well, I mean, I'm definitely bigger than you. And he goes, what are you talking about, bro? I'm definitely bigger than you. What are you talking about? And then they fight each other. And yeah, no, it's that's an idiot idea. That's a dumb idea, Cameron. Stupid.
It's not a dumb
Cameron.
idea.
Come on.
I think that's a whole nother way you could take this session. And that's the thing about beholders is every beholder is so wacky and so different that like this whole Hydra thing, there's so many different ways you could take it, and I love it.
I'm a big fan. I think that this would be quite a bit of fun just for a short adventure, you know, going through sort of the, I mean, I don't know what you could call it, but like the Eye of the Beholder or something like that.
Eye of the Hydra.
The Eye of the Hydra, there it is, yes. And yeah, you just go through these different heads and you sort of go through that whole process. You can approach it in any direction that you'd like. You can deal with it as you may.
See,
but fighting the final Hydra is sort of a process.
Like another
preparation.
Another total set way you could take it is a wizard creates a new version of Beholder, but it only has one eyeball. Or this new Beholder is around and it only has one eye stalk. And you fight it, and as you're fighting it, when you cut off its eye stalk, like two grow back. Like that's another way you could take it. So as you and the longer you fight it, the stronger it gets. Like there's just so many ways you could take this.
That's a good thing.
So many ways you could take it.
Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Smash that like button. So with that being said, I think we've gotten to a good point here.
Oh yeah. Now I think is it your time? I think it's your turn.
It is my time. I feel like I haven't done a synopsis in a while. You know what I mean? I don't think I've done a synopsis in a while. So I think I'm going to try to really hit this one.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and give you a quick little summary while you think of a synopsis there for us, bud. Okay, so Hydra. That's the essential idea behind this whole thing was there is a weird mixture between a beholder and a Hydra. The basic mechanic being as you kill one beholder head, another one grows back. The idea we came up with, but there's many more, was that this Hydra had maybe taken over a town or a whole world, and you're kind of starting off a new session there. And in this world, the Hydra has employed a lich to keep the citizens of this area alive. No matter, you would die and you come back to life because the beholder needs to keep making statues in its honor or whatever. It's just, dictator stuff. However, after enough time goes by, the Lich is sick of this, and he finally recruits your team to take out the Hydra using its dreams. Once you hop into their dreams, you can have them dream up their weakness that you could use against them for the final Hydra fight, where technically, if your players die, they could still come back to life, which is another thing we didn't even get. That there's so much that can go into this to make it so much fun. But Cam, let me ask you, as you think about this, do you have a little bit of a picture for us, a little bit of a word picture?
I think I do.
Okay.
The steps of this tower seem to rumble as the Hydra has intertwined itself throughout the different doors and windows and rooms. Each of the Hydra's heads has made a home in different portions of this tower. You open a wooden door, it creaks open slowly, and behind it, you see a hulking, massive beholder. Two eye stalks hang off the side of this beholder, pulsating, veiny, vascular, some would say, super shredded it would say. Its eye slowly turns to you. And he looks and he goes,
You like what you see? That's what I thought. Yeah. Name's Buffholder. You here to die or what?
Your players think this over. They decide that the best thing to do is to lean into the strengths of this Buffholder. They tell him of a tale of how they've only met weak beholders and that such a strong beholder should not just be by itself. The beholder looks around and thinks,
I am pretty smart. People know me for that. Nothing else, really. Tell you what. Cut my head off. Cut it off. Watch.
the players slice through with ease. A stalk lies on the ground, bleeding, blood all over the place. But it starts to harden and then pulsate and grow until two of the exact same beholder buff holder heads pop out.
What do you think? Pretty buff, huh? Let's do this again.
And they just do it over and over and over again. And then there's 6,000 buff holders.
Dude.
And they start a Gold's Gym.
What are you even here for? Are you to oil me up? Are you here for my 12 o'clock oil up? Yeah, come on in, come on in. You must be, make sure you get, oh, you're my oil guy, huh? I accidentally disintegrated the old one. Yeah, couldn't handle last buff holder that was around here had a Planet Fitness account, and, they don't let me scream in there when I'm lifting weights, so, I got to start my own gym, I call myself Swoleholder. You like that? Pretty hot, right? Pretty shredded. Look at this, I have a six-pack.
And he just rolls out his tongue, and there's a six-pack on his tongue.
I don't want to... The more I think about a buff beholder, the more I'm like, it shouldn't exist.
But it does. Get that into your head now. Oh, man.
Well,
yeah, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I would love to actually play that one. Oh, can we mention the stuff that we were talking about in the Discord about everybody getting a chance to play with us, or vice versa, actually? Some of y'all wanted to run games for us, which was interesting.
Yeah, we should totally... Crap, we're supposed to be talking about the giveaway. It's the end.
Yeah.
It's the end of the episode, and I didn't get to talk about the giveaway until right now. So here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. DM's Treehouse is a new podcast that myself, Cameron from Coventry, if you guys have listened to Heritage at all, that's his amazing brainchild, and Adam from over at the Roaring Trainers. We actually just started recording his Pokemon sessions, and they're so much fun, so awesome. The four of us, we've just actually gotten to be really good friends over the past year. We decided to start an actual play podcast together where we rotate through our different worlds. Now, here's the thing. When podcasts first start off, like the first month of them starting are super huge for them, especially when it comes to reviews and when it comes to new downloads. So for the Filling in the Gaps community, what we wanted to do is if you guys go to DM's Treehouse on iTunes and leave a review, if you don't have iTunes, if you just share it on social media, and then you take a screen capture of that and send it to us on our Discord, or send it to us at mail. What's it again, Cam? Mail filling in the
gaps at gmail.com.
Yeah, if you send that to us just as proof, we'll go ahead and put you into a raffle where we're gonna pick a few of you guys to be players in a one shot run by myself and Cam based on one of the themes and scenarios that we've built in the past, and we think it'll be a lot of fun. That's going on for, I believe, when you hear this episode, 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks after this episode airs. So make sure you do that. It helps us out so much. So much. And we hope that you guys just have fun listening to DM's Treehouse. Like, I personally love it. I'm really proud of it.
Awesome. That is exactly what he just said. And what I am about to just say is... check that out, guys. Somebody actually mentioned that they wanted to run a game for us as well, and I found that to be interesting. We would love that. I think that'd be great. We would love to come in and be players in a game and just let you sort of show your chops off with the DMing. I think that would be pretty amazing as well. What else? What else we got, Rich? I think we just have. I hope y'all like this episode. This was fun. This was a fun episode, right?
Yeah, I think all we have is the closer. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Filling in the Gaps. Thank you, community at Discord, for coming up with the amazing idea of a Hydra, and Combi for helping us with the giving us the one scenario that could probably actually make this work. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Look us up on Discord. You can find our Discord by going to our Twitter at FitGDND or our Reddit page and finding the links from there. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We know that sometimes DMing week after week or month after month, you can get exhausted and run out of ideas. And now you have a great one to kill all your players and get them to start a new session where you can be a player for once. But that's what we're here for, Filling the Gaps, giving you ideas so you can actually play next time you have a game night. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.